Thank you. Well, thank you for inviting me. It's an honor to be here. And I also, right now actually, I'm in the middle of a military exercise that is going on, so I've gotten special leave to come here to speak for you guys. So I think we should have a special gratitude for my for the commander and his staff that gave me the permission to come here and speak for you all. So without any further ado, I will get into it. So what I will be speaking to you about today is how our party, our new party, is like different to the other parties in Norway that has come before. Like why and how are we different? And also, how do we want to bring about these changes? What is different about our goals? And moreover, how do we want to achieve them? What are the policies, what is approaches that we have used, both in terms of strategy, as well as dealing with the media and so forth. And I hope I can share some insights with you that you can take home and that could be useful if you want to get involved in your own countries. Well, there's much that can be said about like both how we operate and organize, but for the time being, like you can compare our style much to guerrilla tactics and asymmetrical information warfare, because we are fighting against a huge, well-oiled, established machine of liberal propaganda. And I think this is true throughout the entire sphere of the West and Europe, European Union, America, Australia, and so forth. So what we have done, we have come across where we have tailored a style that we call nationalism with a smile. You know, when people hear the word nationalism, they usually think about some angry, angry white men or some disgruntled person that is just raging about, everything that he doesn't like and all of that. But the way we approach this, that we went actually almost overboard with being positive, having a positive attitude, using a lot of humor and optimism. So instead of like just talking about all the negative things, and obviously we did that too, we approached the problems, but we also approached with hope. We're giving our people overwhelmingly hope. There are policies that can be used. There are solutions to these problems, and we can, if we want, and we have the political will, it can be achieved. So that's what we call a nationalism with a smile. So every time, for example, they attacked us using the ordinary tactics of calling us, neo-Nazis and so forth, we attacked that with just being friendly. We were overwhelmingly friendly. Of course, we refuted the argument, but also being very friendly. We didn't get angry at them, and just absolutely being very positive. And this also gave a lot of a nice feedback loop that was created between us and our base. Because when we were happy and we were very positive, that created a positive feedback and gave hope to our own electorate. So it kind of weighed up for the propaganda that was put against us. Our primary goals are, as stated, we want national independence and we want to take control of our borders. And of course, we also seek to reverse the demographic development that has been going on in our country, where we want Norway to remain a homogeneous, ethnic homogeneous society. Right now, we are like the rest of Europe on a trend to become replaced. Like ethnic Europeans are being replaced in their homelands by immigrants coming from countries further south. So that is also what we want. We want to stop, not only we want to close the borders, but we also want to, it's not enough to slow down. It's not enough to close. You also have to start a program of sending people home. Of course in a fair and legal and a humane way. But this has to be talked about, and we have to come up with policies to do so. And of course that was extremely radical in the views of your ordinary liberal and socialist, of course. But that's what we did. We started to change the Overton, did I pronounce that correctly? Overton window? Yeah. Excuse me, yeah. English is not my native language after all. So in concrete terms, that translates to exit of the EEA, the European Economic area that we have, and the treaty that we have with the EU, and we want to leave Schengen. But as I mentioned earlier, we are dealing with powerful globalistic institutions and networks. And this is a fight that is almost near impossible to win alone. That's why I believe that we need alliances and cooperation between traditionalist and nationalistic movements across Europe, yes, and you know, the West at large. If we want to be successful, we do have to cooperate, because as one sovereign nation, as more and more sovereign nations are rejecting globalism, and each one of us are rejecting globalism, we overall weaken the power of these globalistic institutions. By Britain leaving, and actually it was in fact the Brexit and the victory of Trump to some degree in the United States election that created an opening for us to start this party. It shifted, it demoralized the establishment in Norway. It gave wind in our sails, so to speak. So a victory one place will translate to an opening in another place. So that's why, by mutual self-interest, we should really cooperate across borders between traditionalist and nationalistic movements. Also, this is a testimony that this is an international process, with, of course, with stress on national in the word of international, of course. And it goes to show how important it is to support each other across borders, and all the while we have to remain independent. So talking about cooperation across borders is not, obviously, it's not the same as talking about unions or any sort of thing. But we can, of course, and we do quite naturally as Europeans, recognize a cultural affinity to one another. And that's another point that makes it easier for us to cooperate. Again, remaining independent. What I believe that we need, and I think there's good evidence for this, is that we need a decentralized network of counter-movement throughout Europe and the Western world. Meaning that we don't need a centralized structure. Again, going back to how we operated inside of Norway in the election, we were almost impossible to silence, because the more they attacked us, we were anti-fragile, if you're familiar with that term. The more you attack us, the more disruptive, the more you attack us, the more we grow. And we have self-organizing pockets all over Norway that popped up and gave us support throughout the election. It's like unprecedented how much a newly formed party got airtime on television, on national television. It's like it's almost, you can compare it a little bit to how Trump was baiting the media and giving himself press time. We used similar tactics. Of course, we didn't have the same funds as Mr. Trump. But anyway, going back to the decentralized network, again, it's very important that we think decentralized. Now we have technology to help us decentralize as well. And we can really support each other in that way. First and foremost, I believe it's moral support and inspiration. That this is a currency that we will use. This is the easiest way of supporting each other by. For example, during the election, we received support from the Erkenbrand, among other things, and other nationalist movements. And now I'm returning the favor. There's going to be an election in Sweden right now, and we're getting involved with that and giving them both, how to say, the experiences we had and how to deal with difficult situations, and as well as we giving them media. We built up a platform, our own platform, and we'll use that platform to help the Swedish nationalists in Sweden to front their case. And I think this is how we can help each other, by having a decentralized network with lots of platform being built in different places. That is like, if someone gets shut down or having a problem somewhere, we can mobilize in the network, using the different platforms, our YouTube channels, Facebook, or other alternative media that is being built up. Furthermore, what is equally important, and I think this is what we're doing actually here today, and I see more and more of this, but I want to stress it and say it out so we become more aware of this, is that equally important to giving moral support and inspiration. What what we're also doing right now, and we should be very, how to say, adamant about doing, that we give each other legitimacy. We give each other legitimacy as a viable political, economic, and intellectual alternative. We need to build an intellectual counterpart to the cultural Marxism that had, it's been unopposed since the Second World War. Yeah. It's just been rampant, going on. We need to show, of course, we need to demask, and it's already going on, but we also have to build a viable and legitimate intellectual, political, and economic alternative. And by recognizing each other, Norwegians, my party, getting recognition from you guys here in Britain, from the Erkenbrand, from, for example, Front National, from the Alternative for Deutschland, we getting recognition gives us legitimacy, and we will return that recognition back. And we will start our think tanks, traditionalist think tank in Norway, inviting people to come over to us. In this way, we are creating an intellectual community, which will become people, ordinary voters and ordinary citizens will start looking, hey, these guys are they're well articulate, they're highly educated, they're intelligent, well-dressed people. So then we become legitimate. We have to do this. We won't get anywhere in politics until we have built up this legitimacy. So this is what we're doing right now. We're building legitimacy and we're giving each other legitimacy, recognition across borders. Actually, so, yeah. So, furthermore, by starting the alliance, we did something that was not supposed to happen. In the mindset of the establishment, and I use this as a very broad term, we were not supposed to happen. We were not a part of the game plan that the alliance should be formed. Like, it's been other people have tried and have been unsuccessful, quite so. But it was a great shock to the establishment that we were even able to get the required signatures to form a political party. And all the signatures were collected in a matter of 2 months. It's a record. No one in Norway no political party has ever collected their required signatures as expedient as our party. And it goes to show that there truly is a fertile soil of discontent that gave us the opportunity to collect those signatures so quickly. And I touched upon this a little bit earlier, how we were anti-fragile, and the way we did is like each time we were attacked by the media, we just moved the front forward. Sometimes we didn't even have to address what they were saying. We just moved the front. We just went on the offensive. No matter what they did, we went completely on a counter-offensive immediately. Or maybe a couple of days to recuperate, but then we went on the front. We actually didn't start defending. Like, if we said something controversial, we got attacked on that. We didn't necessarily defend that. We just we just pulled the front. We just moved the front forward all the time, never backing down. This is a take-home message. Never back down. It's like you can refute what they're saying, but you don't even have to do that. You don't even address what they're saying to you, and you just go on the next and you move the front forward. Very important. We were able to do this. We were able to put the establishment in Norway under heels, so to speak. We could see how they were consternated. They didn't know how to respond to us. They had never encountered a beast like this before, actually. A beast like this before. And of course, we also very consciously were baiting the media by provoking on purpose. Our party leader is a quite charismatic figure, and he's an expert in finding the trigger points, and on purpose, sometimes over, over the top, provoking the establishment and the media in order to get the media to respond. And he worked every time. So don't be afraid to sometimes, provoke or putting things really on the, how do you put the thing, tip of the spear? I don't know how to translate that into English, actually. We have a saying and an expression in Norwegian. Yeah. And another thing, what we did, we were always ready to record a happening. We brought, like, just with your cell phone and a good microphone, if a happening happened, we were the first one to record what happened and bring out our own narrative way before the established media were able to even get their story out. So that's another tip I want to share with you, especially some of the younger people here, I guess, who are who may be involved in this type of activism using the new technology. So effectively, what we did throughout the campaign is that we have shifted the discourse in Norway. New debates that were previously not allowed, or people were even aware that this debate existed, are now being debated even on national platforms. It's like we see debates about about this ethnicity, about replacement, and so forth, are actually happening and going on it was taken up on national television, something that was unthinkable before the election. So I'm also saying that we have to be brave, because it will cost a lot. There are personal sacrifices that we will have to make for the cause. It will cost a lot, socially, and maybe even careers and so on. But someone has to do it. If we don't do it, then who will? So that's my motivation of actually coming here today and speaking up and being a public person. It's like, because I realize if I don't do it, Europe is going to disappear as the way we know it. So, as I said, we've cracked the facade, cracked a hole in the facade of the Norwegian establishment in the liberal media, and now we see the fruits of that. We see more and more people actually daring to speak up because someone set the example. So courage, in this sense, is very important. However, and I think we touched upon this. Was it Alex who spoke about this a little bit earlier? However, one of our greatest challenges in Norway, and I even should say dangers, is that we have fake conservatives in government. It's like, I would prefer, okay, understand me or like misunderstand me in the right way, or understand me in the right way. Is like, I would prefer to have actually a more left-leaning Labour Party in power. Yeah. Yeah. Instead of having fake conservatives giving false hope. I think this is the greatest danger we have, because it desensitizes people. It's like, and suddenly you wake up, it's like a frog being boiled. Like you just keep turning the dial, right? Because they're just as globalist as the Labours and you know, all this social justice and all these things. They're a part of the same paradigm. So it's very problematic because they give the false hope, and they say, especially one party in Norway that's actually in power right now, they say that they are against immigration, and they say they're pro our heritage. They're against the erosion of our culture. They say so. This is what they tell us. But in fact, they're stating the false conservatives. They served the last term, and they were re-elected this term. And as a fact, during the last 4 years, immigration have been record high, with a political party in power who claims to be against immigration. They had higher immigration than the Labour Party that was in the term previously. Understand it, those who can, but it just goes to show that they are part and parcel of the globalist agenda. What is the globalist agenda? Well, it's erasing national borders, sovereignty, and local identity. This is what they want to do. And the fake conservatives are part of that. And again, they're more dangerous than the liberal left, because it diverts the resistance against multiculturalism and all these things. It diverts the resistance from, let's say, an alternative like the Alliance, which actually would make a real difference. It diverts it over to the fake conservatives because they give the fake hope. That's why it's so dangerous. furthermore, and of course the voters get appeased believing that the sitting fake conservatives will sort things out, which of course they want. So what we're seeing is a synergy between the fake conservatives on one side and with the cultural Marxists and liberal left on the other side, right? So we have this synergy where the fake conservatives are accepting the premise or the paradigm of the cultural Marxists, and they allow them to run the discourse on social conservative values. We're all playing, or I'm not, but largely we're all playing in their courtyard, so to speak. Whereas on economic terms, it's economic globalism. It's a form of, I would say, a very toxic and very dangerous form of an economic system, of the global banking system, which has complete disregard of local national identity. It's like this. It's a part of this monster of modernism. So we had I would say crony capitalism, globalistic capitalism on one side, and I'm not talking about true free markets here of that is locally anchored and so forth, which is a part of our tradition to have. But you have that on one side, which actually, and then in synergy with cultural Marxism. So it's like you have the worst of two worlds coming together, basically destroying us from the inside. So we look a lot at the immigrants coming in, and there's huge problems with that. But we're the ones letting them in. Maybe not the people in this room, but as a nation, we're the ones letting them in. We have the power to stop them and change this. So what I recommend, and what is our focus for the next 4 years before we go into the next election, is that we will systematically expose the fake conservatives. They will be our primary target of attack. Don't waste your ammunition attacking the cultural Marxists. I mean, the ordinary citizen, they can see the lunacy of that. It's like all you have to do is just expose them once and let them talk, and most people won't stand for that. What we have to do is a systematic and methodical attack of the fake conservatives. We have to deconstruct them, we have to attack them, we have to oppose them at every part, show that they're hypocrites and liars. We have to expose them as false prophets and the false hope that they give. We must delegitimize them. The same as we're building our own legitimacy, we have to actively delegitimize the fake conservatives as a political alternative. New parties such as the Alliansen and Alternative for Deutschland and so forth should be presented as the new alternative. And this is what I'm talking about again. We're using each other's platforms to fronting each other, inviting each other on shows and giving each other airtime and really work on that. Furthermore, and I think this could be very interesting for you here in Britain to hear, and I guess from other parts of Europe as well. Further, our strategy in Norway is that we will bring address three distinct and different groups together. We want to bring together in a sort of alliance the Christians, the labor unions, and the new budding nationalistic movement that we see some refer to them as the alt-right and so forth. We need to bring these three distinct groups together, and each of these groups have their own reason to reject globalism. We don't need to be ideologically agree on every point. We just pragmatically have to make an alliance to reject globalism and enhance national sovereignty and identity. The labor unions, obviously, they want to avoid social dumping. They don't want their trade and their skills and so forth to be cheapened. They want to remain both in terms of technical skills and in terms of the pride of their trade to stay intact as a part of, you know, a craftsman in Norway and a craftsman in Britain do a certain thing in a certain way, different. There's a lot of tradition in that. It's different from, for example, how they do it in Poland, how they do it in Syria, and so forth. That's one thing. Another thing, they want to avoid social dumping. They don't want unskilled labor and people who come in droves and you know, remittances back to their home countries. Wow. So they want to avoid social dumping. We should conquer the labor movement, the labor unions. We have the potential to do that. That's the first thing. Obviously, the nationalist movements, they want to preserve heritage and independence, and sort of we are a part of that movement, more or less. So that's our starting base. And the Christians should obviously be concerned with, you know, postmodernism and modern decadence that we see, as well as secondly to Islam, to oppose the influence on Islam on our country. So we should appeal to the Christians as well. Oppose Islam as well as moral decadence. These are two very good reasons why to bring the Christians into the fold. And what I also want to encourage everyone, and this is a part of the strategy of involving the Christians, I would encourage you to get involved in your local church. I don't know how it is in Britain, but in Norway we have something that is called a church election. Do you have church elections here? Yeah? It means that as a part of the Church of Norway, and almost everyone is, almost every citizen, unless you're a Muslim, obviously, or an atheist, which most people aren't yet. Well, we won't let them. Anyway, getting back on track. So we have church elections. It's a great way that we as citizens, we can get involved in your local church, and you can run for a non-ordained office in that church, and you can vote. Most people don't use this right. They don't even know it's a thing. At least in Norway, you can do that. Very few people do it. So if a self-conscious nationalistic, traditionalistic movement, self-conscious movement, if they enter the church, they could outvote almost anyone, and we could get our people in on the local boards and on the different local churches around. So I want to encourage everyone here to take back our churches. We need to make them into a bastion of tradition again. And I know that within the nationalist movement, there are different fringes and branches, and there are some groupings that have a conflicted view on Christianity. But as we touched upon earlier here on the previous speaker, Christianity has absorbed a lot of the ancient European traditions into itself, and Christianity is a living tradition. Despite being weakened lately, it is still a continuous line, a continuous tradition still alive, in which there's still energy to be had in this place, and we should enter into it. And last but not the least, I want to encourage also everyone to employ radical truth. This is a term that we coined during the election. Radical truth is not just about speaking the truth, but it's to actively seek out lies and to expose them, no matter the controversy. Never back down, never apologize for speaking these truths. And of course, always do it with a smile. Thank you.